Welcome to the Global Glug, un podcast internacional sobre spirits dove condividiamo historias y tradizioni main in English con un toque de español, italiano y un accenno de français. Chin chin! Hello, welcome back to a new episode, the Global Glug. My name is Renato Molo and today I'm with Ivar De Laat. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly.
That's
Ivar?
very good, actually.
Perfect. So Ivar, you are originally from Amsterdam, if I'm not wrong, Netherlands, and you are now living in Canada. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I wanted to know you more. Of course, I read a lot. You have a blog, the Rum Revelations, and you write a lot about rum, news, critics, your trips. So I will ask you more about, of course, each of these points.
Sure.
But just to start, I wanted to ask you about you. You moved from Amsterdam. I don't know if it's your city, Netherlands to Canada. How did you get into rum? So was it before moving to Canada, or how did you start to getting into the rum world?
Well, Amsterdam is not my city, but it doesn't matter. In the Netherlands, I moved to Canada 2007, so it's quite a while ago. And those days in the Netherlands, rum was basically Bacardi and Havana Club, and that's about it. So I started drinking really late. Like in my late teens, I wasn't drinking. I was one of those teenagers that was well behaved.
Okay.
So I didn't drink, I didn't smoke, anyway, at some point I started rum and cokes, which was basically Bacardi, and I liked it, and which is where a lot of people have done that, and they never move on from it. But I slowly started going. You go to a liquor store, you see. I remember what changed it somewhat. I saw a bottle of Cacique, Cacique
Venezuela
500, I think it was called, Venezuelan rum. Yeah, and I thought, that's kind of nice. I realized that I should look around a bit more to see what's out there. The choices weren't great, but when I moved to Canada, is really when I started getting into it a lot more. Again, not a lot of choices, unfortunately, still not here, but they did have Mount Gay XO, which I liked very much. They had Pampero, the yellow and red label, and then of course the one in the Aniversario in the leather bag. So I have my phase there of drinking the premium, super sweet stuff. Zacapa 23, Plantation, XO, all that stuff. Next to that, which was a saving grace, was that Mount Gay XO and Appleton. They always have Appleton here. That's kind of, and then I realized, this is starting to be fascinating. I need to know more about this. And then you start diving into internet, like trying to find information, and most would lead to Diplomatico, Zacapa, those bigger premium brands, as many call them. Then you go to reviews. I'm very much into always looking for reviews. Whatever I buy, like I'm obsessed with looking at reviews. It doesn't matter what it is. I buy, a car or a CD player or a pair of shoes or whatever. I'm always looking for reviews. So I did the same with rum, and then you get to blogger sites because these are the ones that do most of the reviews, and I found that all of them were doing something similar where none of them I could find any sort of criticism. And that's what I'm always looking for. I'm always looking for criticism, because that gives me the sign that somebody is being honest and not afraid of alienating anybody or alienating any opportunities to maybe get free product or become that fancy influencer or whatever the thought behind it is, or get a job in rum. I'm looking for that because I want to see, I just want to get an honest review. And all of these people were just cheerleading.
Yeah.
Cheerleading, and they were saying, oh, these rums, all the sweet ones, all those, ones with sugar in it, they were all the best. And that didn't sit well with me, to be honest. So anyway, probably talking too much.
No. I have
too many questions in one, so
yeah, of course, no worries. I have a question, yes, to you, especially about the marketing, of course, which I think a new consumer is always the number, the labeling, and the marketing is really powerful. So this is, I think it's really important for a consumer who starts getting into rum to find the reviews. So when you started reviewing in your how did you start writing? I mean, how was the approach? Maybe the first critics, how everything was growing when you started doing it?
Well, I didn't start writing immediately. I was more just active on social media, learning from people, reading a lot and reading rum books, but also a lot of publications on internet, and just chatting with people online about rum. And that could be sometimes very positive, and sometimes it could be a bit argumentative or negative, whatever you want to call it. At some point you get a little bit of like two sides. Yeah, these people that were really pro sugar in rum and all these misleading brands. No, it's all fine. Who cares? And then you had a group of people who were like, no, I'm really not okay with this, and that got a bit nasty sometimes, which was not nice. But I think maybe that was needed to get things going, from where, like I just mentioned, all these reviewers, all these bloggers, sticking to everything is great, even if it's not, and plain denying that sugar was being added to rum, to now where it's out in the open mostly, right? Which I think is a good thing. Most of these bloggers are gone, which is, I think, good as well, because they brought absolutely nothing to consumer. What's the point? What's the point? You're just free marketing for a brand to a very tiny group of people, because we do have to all realize that we are in a tiny little bubble of the rum market. We are insignificant. That rum enthusiast circle is very small. So, but still, they were spreading wrong information, and luckily most of them are gone. But it's still very hard to find people who are willing to actually give an honest opinion. I don't need one hand to count them, So, but anyway, I didn't feel knowledgeable enough to start writing immediately. So I was just kind of like chatting with people online and giving some opinions and stuff to people, trying to help people who were starting out. And at some point I was like, you know what, I feel I'm ready for it, and I just diving into it and to see what would happen. And that's now, I don't know, 5 years ago, I think.
Okay, yeah. 2019, I think.
Over 2025 now. To get used to that still.
And I think it was also a nice period. I mean, nice, because 2019, 2020, we know we had a lot of time, maybe because we couldn't go out. So also writing was maybe, or tasting rums was also something that we
drinking more.
Yeah, exactly. And so it was maybe a nice, because I know writing is it's not easy. Writing, I mean, you need to have time. You need to get. I mean, it's it takes time writing. So
Yes.
and sometimes with our personal life, kids, wife, job, everything, it's not easy to take maybe let's say an hour, or maybe sometimes it takes also more depending on how
Oh
deep
yeah.
to write down something. And so it's not easy, and that's also sometimes what I really like about blogs like yours, that it's an investment of time. I mean, doing a video, it's nice and fun, fancy, everything, but a video is so, I'm not saying easy, but a video maybe sometimes it's more like superficial.
Right.
Instead, writing, it's more a deep dive into something. So, yes, I really appreciate works like yours. Blogs, you say it, yes, a lot of them. When you see articles online, you see just also, of course, articles which are superficial, the best rum, whatever, and they don't mean anything. Best rum of what? There is no, if I can say so, criteria behind it. And this is so important that some independent writers do the job like you do. So I see you also created a rum club in Canada. Is that still going on, or is?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Can you tell us how it works, the rum club?
Yeah, so that's just a Facebook group.
Okay.
And I mean, it's not really a club.
Okay.
It's just a. The idea for starting that was that in Canada is pretty uneducated when it comes to rum, the consumers. And I figured, why don't I start a group and try to get Canadians in there who are rum interested, and give them show them that there is so much more beautiful rum available around the world than what they get in the stores here. Because the store here, well, I'm in Ontario, the province of Ontario, and every province has a different system in Canada. The ones we're in is called the LCBO, Liquor Control Board of Ontario, and this is a government monopoly. To me, that's a bit like living in the Middle Ages. The government decides what we can and cannot drink, basically. And I think their criteria are mostly based on collecting taxes, because that's their primary reason for existing, is collecting taxes for the government. So they rather have big selling brands like Captain Morgan and Bacardi, Kraken, that kind of stuff, than something niche. Who cares about something niche? They want tax money. So the variety of rum available here is it's nothing. It's so if you, and that counts for Colombia as well.
Exactly. Yes.
If you don't have availability in your store, how are you going to know what's out there, right? So that was kind of the goal of this group, was to just share. Just like Rum Revelations is me sharing my own journey and experiences. It's nothing else but that, really. And I was hoping to help out some people. And I have no thoughts of that I'm going to be very influential and I'm going to, change the whole thing. No, but I mean, I think if I can change to 0.0001%, then that's cool. And that's what I've seen. I mean, RCC is now, I think probably 6 years or so it's been now. And I've seen a lot of people come in with, drinking Kraken or whatever, and now they're drinking Hampton Great House, and that's cool. I absolutely love seeing that journey. That's so satisfying to me, and that's what that is about. We're living in such a rum desert here that I think it's cool to show people that there is so much else out there, really.
Yeah, it's interesting because you said it. It's like Colombia. So I'm from Switzerland, but I live here in Cartagena, in Colombia, and it's really difficult. It's frustrating when you go to the old liquor shop. Every liquor shop here in Colombia, you always have the same choice, always the same stuff, as you said, Bacardi, Zacapa, and of course the local brands of Colombia, which okay, are different, but kind of always the same. We will talk about it later. And which leads me to another question about the sugar in the rum, because of course here there's a lot of sugar as well in many rums.
Yeah.
Why do you think it's so important to talk about sugar in rum? Why is it such a not bad thing? Bad thing, yes, but good thing also for other people, because we don't have to believe it. It sells a lot.
Yeah.
Selling. So why is it important to you?
Well, I think it's important for two reasons. First of all, because rum has this reputation of being a sweet, sugary drink, like a party drink, or something that you throw in a glass and you add Coke or juice or whatever. And there's nothing wrong with doing that. I mean, I drink rum and Cokes and I love it. However, rum is so much more than that. You know, I think rum should have a much better reputation than what it has right now. If you see some of these producers that are maybe not doing as well, obviously not doing as well as the Zaccapas and the Captain Morgans and the whatever, and they're putting an absolutely fantastic product on the market that is so beautiful and so expressive and so much flavor, so much, and barely sells because people are like, that's not rum. I mean, I get people here in my house, and I love doing that to people that have no knowledge about rum. Maybe they drink whiskey or whatever, and I give them some rum, and they're like, that's not rum. What is this? This is not rum. Because they are used to it being overly sweet, spiced, that. And so I think that the reputation of rum should really change, and that will benefit the producers who are actually making rum the proper way, right? Now, I think this is something very difficult to achieve, but if you don't stand for anything, you don't want to support anything, then why would you do this at all? So that's kind of my view. And then the second thing is that sugar is used in a lot of times in a misleading way, and this is luckily getting better and better because there's more transparency out there now. But like I said, that period like 10 years ago when I started diving deep into it, when Johnny Dreyer started doing his hydrometer testing, that was like mind-blowing, because before that, every person who said, well, it's sweet because it's got sugar added to it, they would get slaughtered online, by all these bloggers, by brand representatives, and because all these brands wanted to keep the myth alive, with Zacapa, with that sweetness comes from the fact that we use this in this cask and it's aged high up in the sky and all this bullshit. I mean, one of the worst I ever read was Zacapa had some sort of release where it was kind of herbal, and they actually put in their marketing that was because they put the casks in a herbal garden. I mean, oh God. Okay. See, the problem with my personality is I read that shit and I get annoyed, you know? And you can see that in some of my, posts when I'm annoyed, because then it actually flows. I'm not a very talented writer, so like you said before, it takes time. It takes a lot of time for me to write stuff because I'm not super talented. But if I'm annoyed about something, then it just starts flowing. And this kind of stuff annoys the hell out of me because I'm a consumer. I don't work in this industry. I have no connections in this industry. I don't have any benefit from whatever I do. I'm just a consumer, and I see this crap happening, and I'm like, the wool is being pulled over our eyes as a consumer, and that is the same recipe is used all the time. So you have a nice looking bottle with some sort of impressive number on the label. So Zacapa was always 23, Plantation XO with their 20, Centenario has all these numbers on the bottle where you're like, what does it stand for? You don't even know. But most consumers think it's age, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And in a lot of these cases, it has nothing to do with age. But if you give somebody who doesn't know a bottle that is good looking, has a big number on the label, it's colored, so it's dark, and then they drink it and it has sugar added to it, and what the sugar does, it takes the burn away, the feeling of burn away.
Yeah.
So people go, oh my God, that's smooth. And I hate the word smooth, to be honest, because it's just overused, it's not used properly. Oh, that's smooth. I think most people just mean that there's no burn in the throat, I guess.
And it's good.
And that's great, because the fact that it's dark, that it has that number, and it's smooth, that must mean that it's been in that cask for that long, and that it's premium, and that it makes sense that I just paid $100 for that bottle. While in reality, it's probably maybe 5-year-old, not even, colored, sugared stuff, or it hasn't been in a cask at all. They just added some wood flavoring, and you're just being fooled, you know. So that sugar movement was good. I mean, Richard Seale has been if we talk about the enthusiast circles, Richard Seale has been incredibly important in that.
Yeah.
I think it's very clever from his standpoint to do what he did. I think it's worked out very well for them, but also for the rest of us, because even if you like sugared rum, and there's nothing wrong with that, if you like sugared rum, you like sugared rum, but at least now we're getting to a point where a lot of people know what they're drinking and know what they're paying their money for. Well, before, you couldn't know.
Yeah.
There's no clue.
Yeah, and you were just mentioning Richard Seale, exactly. I was listening to a podcast of him on Rumcast, and he said, he was talking about Bacardi. Bacardi is producing rum for the masses.
Yeah.
And he produces rum that he likes, and he looks for the client, for people who are willing to pay something which is 100% rum. I'm saying 100% rum because it's not flavored and yes. So he's also Richard Seale. He's someone who is really involved with the GI. He's fighting for getting a GI to Barbados. We know it's not easy. We have 3 distilleries, the 4 distilleries. We have 3 which basically agree with the GI. We have 1 which is not agreeing.
Yeah.
What do you think about it? Why do you think that this distillery is not willing to get a GI done, basically?
Right. Well, I mean, I think this is more for Barbados people to talk about, and I have absolutely no skin in the game. But I mean, I've written about it quite a bit as just observations, and I think it's. I understand why they want a GI, and I think it's very clear for people to see now why they wanted it, because of Maison Ferrand Plantaret buying one of the distilleries, West Indies Rum Distillery, and what they're doing right now with it. I mean, there's now a sugared, bottled, distilled in Barbados rum on the market. Didn't have that before. And why don't they want a GI? Because we might as well answer that question. Well, because they say they want to innovate. They think that a GI is too restrictive. Well, I mean, if you read what the proposals have been for the GI, it's not that restrictive. You can use several different stills. They can do a lot. What they want to do, they can do it. Okay. However, we know Maison Ferrand, the way they do things. They want to buy rum at origin, or a lot of times from Sheer in Amsterdam. It doesn't even come from origin, and take it to France, and then change it, right? They want to age it in their cognac cask, add sugar, da-di-da-di-da-di-da, and still call it Barbados rum. And while a GI, the geographical components are vital in there, where you say you have to use Barbados water, it has to be aged at origin, things that really make up the terroir of the rum, and that's what Maison Ferrand doesn't want to do, because they want to use seawater in fermentation.
Yeah.
Why? They want to age it for 1 year and then take it to France and age it there. And so basically what they're doing is the money, the value added to the product is mostly done in France. So the money is made in France, not in Barbados. And that's one of the things that obviously Barbados producers want to make more money, and they want to keep the money in Barbados. The money has to be made in Barbados for the Barbados people, and not having one of these foreign companies come in there and say, that's great, we'll profit from this situation, get everything cheap, bring it to France, add the value, and put the money in our pockets. That's the way it is with them. And there's a lot of apologists online, and people, I've had, I remember quite a while ago, a rather well-known blogger sending me an email mansplaining me how capitalism works, and that it's all about money. And of course, it is about money, but it's also about pride. And it's also about the Barbados people, and I think a lot of people forget that. That's definitely very, very important. And people who don't believe this, and they love Maison Ferrand, and they think there's nothing wrong with what they're doing, they only have to look at Jamaica, right? Maison Ferrand, when they bought West Indies Rum Distillery, they got 1/3 ownership of national rums in Jamaica. Luckily, there was already a GI in Jamaica before that happened, a GI that they wanted to strengthen. And since then, they've had all sorts of trouble with that GI. Actually, the national rums of Jamaica all of a sudden is turned around and said, no, we want to change it and actually weaken it. And so it's so obvious that who's behind that, and that company is just I have no good feelings towards that company, apart from the fact that I think that they've been very clever, they're very smart, obviously very business savvy. Their marketing has always been very good, misleading but good, as in for sales very good. And they've been very good towards the bar industry, where they've done a really good job about getting people on their side and getting products in bars. But the way they do business, it's very colonial, it's very nasty, it's very misleading. I do not buy their products because of that, but also because I don't know what's in those bottles. If you do a tasting of I don't know how many different plantation bottles, Plantaray, I still have to get used to the new name, and one is from Trinidad, Guyana, whatever, all different countries, they all taste the same.
I agree with you.
So how does that happen? What's in that bottle? I don't know.
I tasted these rums recently. I've been to Medellin. There was a rum tasting, and was also with Plantaray rums. And yes, you're right. I was wondering why are they already have that kind of same. Yes, they are kind of different, of course, but there's always this same flavor at the end. Always. I don't know how it is. It's like I was thinking about, maybe you know it, and now we can maybe transition to Colombia, about Dictador rums. They always have this kind of same flavor. You can taste the 12, the 20, the whatever, and they have always... So I don't know if this is maybe because they want to achieve like marketing strategy. They want always to taste the same, because you have to taste this product. You have to know this this brand, or if it's maybe just because these products are maybe not really special. About Colombia, your impressions. So you also, I saw you wrote an article about it. Colombia is not just Medellin, Caldas, or the rums. There is also Vice. I saw recently you came to Colombia. You bought some bottles.
Yeah.
Let's maybe talk first about Colombian rums, the mainstream ones. What is your, maybe when you first came here and now, how did you see, if you see some changes here happening?
Right.
Something is changing, but how is your perception of it?
Well, first of all, I love Colombia. I think it's just a wonderful country, and obviously my other half family is there, so that's why I go there on a fairly regular basis. When it comes to rum, I'm super rum curious. So I mean, every time I go, even though now I know I'll buy something, I know the likeliness of it being good is very, very low. I'll still buy it because I've never heard of it, and like, I need to try this, because how can I have an opinion of something if I haven't tried it, right? So but yeah, I keep hitting my head on the same wall, getting this stuff. It's a bit frustrating in a way that, well, first of all, most of the rums are very low ABV. So you're looking at 35 to 40%. If you're lucky, it's 40%. A lot of times it's not. They put age statements on it where you're thinking, I mean, you taste it, you're like, I don't think this is aged at all. When I started writing about it, and I don't want to just say, oh, this tastes good, that tastes bad, this is my rating, 70 points, whatever, and that's it. Nothing against people who do that, but there's tons of that out there, and I feel that if you don't have the same palate as me, then there's no value. All right, there's no value whatsoever. So I always try to add a little bit of information to add some value. Anyway, for Colombia, it's very difficult because there's no clue on who makes what's allowed, what's not allowed. You hear about that only the big government distilleries can distill, nobody else can distill. However, there's certain free zones where you could potentially distill, and then you hear, oh, well, actually, even the government distilleries are not distilling rum, they're buying rum as well. So it's a shit show, absolute shit show over there, which, again, the way I am, I hate it. I want clarity. I want to know, what am I buying? Who made this? What? And so it's that is a frustrating experience. And to come back to what people are used to, because a lot of people have said to me in the past, Ivar, you're criticizing this and that, but that's a tradition for these people. It's a tradition that they like sugared rum. It's tradition that they like low ABV rum. And you know what? When you visit a country and you actually spend a lot of time with locals, and you do drink rum together, you talk about rum together, you get to know that. You get to understand that, yes, it is part of a culture. So, up to a certain degree, I agree. But why is it like this? It's because there's nothing else available. This is it. You only have crappy rums, 35%, 80% of them tasting horrible. And so when I sit down with Colombians and I give them something else that is maybe higher ABV or more flavor, a lot of times they will say, oh, muy fuerte, right? And that makes sense. Makes sense, because this is not what they're used to. But if you never try and you never know anything else, then that's never going to change anyway. So I agree with it to some point that it makes sense. People, this is a cultural thing. However, that doesn't mean that that's what it is. It needs to stop there. People need to be, and that's where you somebody like you come in, where you are educating people and say, hey, you know what? There's more out there than just this stuff or this sugary stuff. Look further than that. And then you mentioned Vici, and I think that's fantastic that's so up and coming, because obviously it's been made for a very, very, very long time, but it was illegal and the people had to hide it, and at least it's coming out of hiding now, and it's got a lot of potential. And I think it's already, despite not having the most, well, I don't know if it has any sort of quality regulations and whatever, it's already a better product than your Caldas and all those horrible Colombian products, really.
Have you been to the Pacifico? Have you been these places to visit?
Unfortunately, I would love to. Unfortunately, not. No, I've just been to Cartagena once.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because my family there is not on the coast at all, so that's a bit of a journey.
Yeah.
So I just went there to see the city because it's got a reputation for being beautiful, and it is.
Yeah.
And that's where I got to know about Vice, because I was in a rum bar there, and
my
there were a
competitor.
couple of bottles, unlabeled bottles with white liquid in it, and I'm like, curious eye was like, what's that? Well, it's called Vice. What? Vice?
Mm-hmm.
They let me taste it, and I was like, ooh, this is fascinating. So that's when I started learning about it more. That's how I talked to you about it, several other people, and it's fascinating. My last trip I brought back six bottles, I think. It's fantastic. I hope it's going to grow, and that these people who make it benefit from it, not just foreigners who are going to invest in it and stuff.
That's also the problem here now, because at the beginning Vice was like, it's made by Afro-descendant of Colombia in the Pacific side. It can only be made in this region, in these 4 departments, and there was the problem before the law started to protect the Vice producers, that people from other places of Colombia, especially Medellin and Bogota, were taking the product, taking it to Medellin and Bogota, labeling it and selling it in higher prices and giving less money to the producers. That's why when the government decided to protect Vice. And since then, Vice is growing, yes, and producers, of course, marketing comes along with nicer and fancy bottles. I saw the last one on the picture of Doña Sofia, really nice bottling.
Yeah.
And this comes, of course, it's important to sell it in a nice bottle, because back then they still, if you go to Cali, they sell these bottles in plastic bottles, which is nothing. Who would buy a plastic bottle?
Well, I would, but
I would too. Yeah, of course, but maybe you and me, we are just the only ones. It's something which is loaded with tradition, and I agree with you. I hope really that it can grow, even though it's not easy because they don't have the infrastructure down there. But it is a lot of investment, of course. But Vice can be, they say, the next big thing in Colombia, the next mezcal. And it's so interesting to me because it's really terroir driven. If you taste one from Chocó and you go down maybe to Cauca, you will have completely different flavor profiles because it's made mainly with the sugarcane juices. And also when I discovered it the first time, I was like, wow, this is amazing. And it's growing in Colombia. Indeed, it's growing. If you go to some bars, the best fancy bars here in Cartagena as well, they do cocktails with Vice, so it's growing. About maybe just a few words about your trips. You have been in different places. I saw on your website you have been to South Africa, you have been to St. Lucia, you have been to Martinique and Guadeloupe, if I'm not wrong. You have been to Mauritius, Barbados. Maybe I'm forgetting something. Why? Yes, why? And maybe which one was your most difficult? I know it's a terrible question, but maybe the one that gave you, I don't know, the one you're really get the biggest impression about.
That is a terrible question, Renato. Terrible question.
It's like when they ask me, when I do rum tasting, they ask me which is your favorite rum.
Favorite rum. Yeah. I never answer that. Well, I do answer that. I just say favorite rum country. I can tell you, but a favorite rum. No.
Exactly.
It changes all the time.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. Yeah.
Trips. I have not been to Guadeloupe. I'm actually looking into that. Maybe doing that sometime soon. Well, I mean, the reason is just the curiosity. I mean, you know, it's great to have all these bottles and find these bottles and taste them, etc. But there's nothing like smelling a rum distillery and seeing that still in action, where you're like, that's where that rum is made that I love so much. You know, I find it fascinating. I find it fascinating to talk to the people who actually make it, because these are the true experts and true heroes. You know, this thing on social media where people go like, oh, this blogger or influencer, oh my God, they are what do they say, like famous and rum royalty and whatever. And I'm like, the people who should get that label are the people who are making it. You know what I mean? Anyway, so I love seeing that. I love seeing the distillery, the surroundings, smell the distillery, talk to the people. I think there's nothing better than that. I've been lucky that I have been able to travel with Eric Kay from Home Ski, American bottler who's been, you know, fantastic bottler. Unfortunately, almost only available in the US. There's been a bit in Canada, a bit in England, but I wish more people would get access to his stuff, because he chooses really good things. But he a couple of times he said to me, hey, you know, do you want to go with me on a trip? And I'm like, okay. And I said, sure. So Mauritius and Reunion was unbelievable. We went there together. It was a crazy flight to get there. Night flight to Paris, then a night flight to Mauritius. We were pretty dead when we got there, but the experience was unbelievable. In Mauritius, we went to Gray's, which they produce some unbelievable rums. We went to almost all distilleries there, but Gray's stood out. In Reunion, Savannah, I mean, it's one of the best in the world, I think, personally. And we were allowed to go into the warehouse and basically taste any cask that we wanted. I mean, that's a dream come true. And so the benefit for me going with Eric is that he more doors open, right? Because he's a potential buyer.
Okay, yeah. So that's what I wanted to ask you. It was not the classical touristic tours you were doing. You were really doing a dedicated one, which is
just distilleries. And so you get a bit of an impression of the country, and Reunion and Mauritius. Oh my God, gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous countries. Great people. We met so many great people, great food. If it was closer by, I would go there all the time. But anyway, that's not what this is about. But yeah, so I mean, and this is not, not a sponsored trip. I mean, I it's not like Eric says, "Oh, Ivar, you want to come with me? I'll pay for it." No, I have to pay for everything myself, and that's the way I like it, because then nobody can tell me, "Oh, well, you were sponsored. You're going to say something positive." But it's the benefit going with him. Apart from that, I really like to travel with him. We travel really well together, and I like him very much. Is that more doors open, yes, at Savannah they knew who I was and whatever, but having somebody who potentially will buy lots of stuff, that opens doors. So I was just there following along and enjoying myself, tasting a lot of stuff and seeing a lot of stuff that you otherwise wouldn't, and I love it. And it was similar with MOBA. Again, I went with Eric, and it was everything was, we could see everything, touch everything, taste everything. We spent 2 afternoons in the warehouse tasting absolutely everything we could see. It was just unbelievable. Again, another unbelievable experience. Beautiful country, and Robert Greaves of MOBA being an incredible host. I recommend anybody to go there, because not only is the rum fascinating, it's fascinating how he does stuff, because it's different from anybody else. So that's what it is, I mean, and St. Lucia was amazing. They treated me like royalty, and I was I get embarrassed because I'm a bit of a shy person, and I feel like I don't deserve that kind of treatment. But that's what they did. I'm like, okay, I just told myself, Ivar, go with the flow. It's okay. This is what they want to do. Okay, it was amazing, and yeah, again, wonderful people, wonderful rums. I mean, St. Lucia. Oh my God, the stuff that they put out with juice, with molasses, different stills. Unbelievable. And the fact that I could hug my favorite still.
Yeah, I saw the picture.
The Vendôme. That was that was a great moment. And in Barbados, I've been to distilleries. Foursquare is always great to go to. Richard, I don't know where he gets the time from, but he'll give some of his valuable time to me to explain me how the column still works. I don't know why he does it, but I love it. So,
yeah. And speaking of Barbados, I saw in Mount Gay you have been, I think it was in 2019 or 2020, you met Mr. Blues as well. Is that correct?
Yeah.
I just talked last episode I was talking with Laurent Cosson, which is the brand director of Mount Gay.
Yeah.
And he was giving some insights about Mr. Blues as well. Can you maybe tell me more about him, about his personality? So you tasted these products long time before, so you were tasting there, the picture I saw, the coffee still rums. Is that correct?
Well, so I can't tell you very much because I'd love to say that I know him very well, that we went to school together and all that kind of stuff. But I know. So I was there at the distillery together with Stephen James, blogger from the UK.
Okay.
And we got a tour we were going to get a tour from the brand rep, but he wasn't available. So we got a tour from somebody who actually works with the production process. And that was the best ever. Like, we're still talking about it because he would answer any question that we had. No matter what it was, everything. And so he also took us to the still room, which I love at Mount Gay. I don't know if you've been, but I mean, those pot stills and of course that column still, the coffee still. You walk in there, you feel, you kind of in your mind, you hear the angels sing. You walk in there, you go, you can, that's how I feel when I walk in there. It's beautiful. Mr. Blues was there at that time, and so he introduced us to him, and we had a quick chat, and he seemed like a really relaxed, nice guy, obviously incredibly knowledgeable. And he had this desk with a bunch of bottles on it, like random bottles. And we're like, oh, what's that? Oh, so he let us taste that stuff, which is like straight from the still, whatever it was. And that was great. It was just a great experience. I have been lucky enough to, on another trip in Barbados, to get a tour of the distillery on my own. This was on a Sunday when it's closed. And then I met the son of Blues. He also works there, and he's another super nice guy. And he took me to see the column still, which is normally you don't get to see. It's kind of off limits. I don't know why.
You mean the industrial one?
Yeah. So he took me in there, and we talked about his dad a little bit, and that was great. Because normally you don't get the opportunity to talk to these people. You only talk to somebody like Laurent, who I love, by the way, Laurent, or a brand ambassador or whatever, and it's great. And I love that they're so open-minded to talking to people like us. But in the end, when you're in that distillery and you talk to somebody who is pulling all these levers every day on these stills and stuff, that is just, I don't know, that's the real deal. That's the real deal. And I love it. And that's why traveling to distilleries is just phenomenal, and especially if you have a bit of a connection with somebody so you can get the non-touristy tour. It's just the best.
Yeah, which is difficult also to get the non-touristic tour, because if they don't know you of course you show up there and you do the tour, and it's say a basic tour. I did the tour also St. Nicholas Abbey in Barbados, which is nice, yes, but you are with a bunch of people, they have maybe no clue about rum, so I mean it's not the same. I have still more questions, but maybe I ask you
Fired and quickly.
yeah, just about your future, about your projects, maybe. Of course, in the rum world, have you anything which is coming up? Are you still motivated in writing? I read some posts that recently I saw you were I'm not saying kind of pissed off, but kind of maybe tired. I don't know if it's something that maybe after a while. I don't know what is your project in the future.
I seem tired. Is that what you're saying?
No, not tired, but I had the feeling that you were maybe too busy doing other, of course, your real life. I mean, real life. You're working. You have, of course, and it's not easy. Writing takes time. So if you are maybe reconsidering to switch in something easier to do, maybe video, or I don't know.
Over the summer I took some time off of writing because I wasn't feeling it, and it happens. I mean, if you look at most bloggers, and I've seen them now because I've been in this scene now for over a decade. I've seen a lot come and go. It's they come in with the best intentions, and a year or two later it's done. In that sense, Lance, the lone caner, we don't always see eye to eye, but it's the thing that I find incredible about him is that how long he's been doing this. That's some dedication there. It's hard to always stay motivated because you spend a lot of time on it, and then in a lot of cases you barely ever get any responses, even though you see that people are reading it. And I'm freaking humbled when I look at the numbers. I barely ever do because I don't really care, but then I look at the numbers and to see where these people are from, and it's all around the globe. I'm like, because when I'm writing something and I'm posting it, I never think about anybody reading it. I just write down my thoughts and I put them there and see what happens. I think a lot of people don't realize how important and how nice it is when they respond to an article, say, hey, that was a nice read, or something simple like that. I think people don't realize that makes a big difference. And I think in general in life, we need to be more appreciative and show it to people because, when I go to the grocery store and there's a cashier there and she's like bloody fast and nice, I will always tell them and say, hey, you're super fast, thank you. It seems like nothing, but when you have a cashier job and it's so monotone and you're like, to get the occasional compliments, nice. And it's the same with this blogging. People don't understand how much work it is, first of all, and then second, if you never hear anything, you're like, oh God, it's just, what's the point? But anyway, no,
I am doing that.
I'm going to keep doing it. I'm going to keep doing it because I just enjoy it. I enjoy this hobby, so what I am thinking of doing is implementing some video, but that would be additional. It wouldn't replace, because I think sometimes it's nice to just chat about something next to writing about it. So I've started experimenting with that a little bit, but it's the same thing again as what I did before I started writing. I first feel like I need to be able to actually do it, like know what I'm doing before I actually do this. But that's what I'm thinking about. And an interesting project right now here in Canada is that there's a new independent bottler called Bedford Park. This is a Canadian guy who lived in different countries, I think including Switzerland. And he has bought tons of casks over the past years. He started with whiskey, now he's doing rum. And his bottles are out in England, but now also coming to Canada, which is, fairly unique, right? Yeah. He's only the second Canadian guy who's doing this. We have Carl Mudzamba with his Bira brand. Which is unbelievable. He has a Fiji and two MOBAs. Soon he's going to come up with Labatt, and I've tasted it. It's really good. And so these two guys are doing this, and now Bedford Park, and so again, coming back to Rum Club Canada on Facebook, that community is very thirsty for good rum. Hard to get in Canada. So all these people are looking forward to these releases coming in. There's Hampton, Foursquare, there's a Martinique, Long Pond, Westerhall. We picked that one with our group, Westerhall, 27-year-old rum, closed distillery. So that's super exciting. I'm a little bit involved with it. He's asked me to help taste, so quite a lot of the releases I've helped taste, to help him pick it. So that's been just a lot of fun. That's a lot of fun, and I hope it's going to do well because we need more of this. And if these kind of things sell well, that's an incentive for these kind of guys to continue and maybe other players to come into the market, and that's going to benefit us all here. So that's super exciting, and that's with rum. If you think that you know everything and if you learned everything, you're always wrong, because there's always something else, and the rum comes along from Ghana or wherever, and you're like, wow, what the hell is this? So, and that's the thing I love about rum. The diversity is unbelievable.
Yeah, it's amazing. You never stop learning. And for example, I discovered recently, I knew that Thailand was doing rum, but for me, Thailand was always like, not best rum, drinking rum, like something which is mixing rum. And also thanks to independent bottlers like Relier, Amazon Whiskey. The Shakara rum was mind-blowing. I mean, I didn't know that Thailand was was willing to do something like this. So it's a market which is growing a lot. It's changing, and it's also difficult to stay how do you say, on track?
Stay on top of it?
To follow it, because it's changing so fast. And how do you think that rum will be in the next, say, 5 to 10 years? How do you think the perception of rum is going to change?
Well, it's always hard to predict. I mean, if you look at the market now, sales are down so much for alcohol in general that I think a lot are struggling.
Yeah.
And so that might kind of stop that roller coaster ride around there, where just look at Foursquare, for example. It's not that long ago that they had Durleys, and that was about it. Right? Now, the amount of cask strength releases that they've done since then is unbelievable. And why is that working? Because the market has changed, and rum enthusiast groups have grown a lot, and people's knowledge has grown a lot. So the appreciation for that kind of rum has grown. I think that will continue. It's just a matter of, can these smaller producers, I'm not even talking Foursquare, they're already too big for them, but the real small producers, can they survive this time right now? And the fact that sales are down a lot, does that mean that companies are going to do less of these cask strength releases and experiment with expensive casks and that kind of thing, because they just don't have the money? I don't know. I really don't know. I'm not very good at predicting things. I mean, I am a real estate broker. People ask me all the time, what's the market going to be like? And I'm like, listen, last October, I thought the spring was going to be super busy because rates are coming down, da-di-da-di-da, and then Trump gets elected. Now I don't know anymore. All this uncertainty. So I think it's similar in rum. There's a lot of, during COVID, so much money was going around, and a lot of companies popped up because they saw an opportunity to make money, not always in a good way. And I don't know if that's going to survive, but I think the thirst for knowledge and interesting releases is really high, and it's going to remain high. So I think that market is going to grow slowly. Because, like I said before, we are a small group. We rum enthusiasts, we're like a drop in the ocean. But if you see some of these companies, bigger companies, are putting out higher ABV releases, that's a really good sign. If they think there's some sort of market for it, then that's fantastic. So I think that's going to grow. We've seen transparency has become a lot more important, and so even companies like Zacapa, well, they're avoiding lawsuits. Zacapa, Centenario, they still put the numbers on the labels, but they don't put años on it anymore. So you see these changes happening, and I think in general, in the world, people start understanding that sugar is a bit of an evil for our bodies, and that I think in general people are moving away from sugar. So you see the rum industry is responding to that as well. So I think that's going to get better and better in that sense, But other than that, I know nothing.
Of course, if we knew,
yeah,
it would be easier.
I'd be a millionaire.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, Ivar. So again, thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate your
thank you.
The interview, your time with me. And yeah, so if you are listening and you want to know more, Rum Revelation, I will put the link. I don't know if you are also, of course, you're also on Instagram,
yes,
and Facebook. And yeah, so I hope to meet you soon, one day in person.
Let's make that happen. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Next time, I don't know when I'm traveling to Canada. I don't know if you're coming back to Colombia soon. But anyway, we need to make a tasting together somewhere.
For sure.
And yeah, thank you very much, Ivar. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Ciao.